Okay. Good morning. Or should I say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome. So we have an audience online watching as well on VICENZAORO.com. Welcome to everybody this morning, wherever you are in the world. Thank you for joining. This is the next seminar by CIBJO, the World Jewellery Confederation. And it's part of the Jewellery Industry Voices seminar series that we've been running since March 2020. It's always a great privilege for me and for all of CIBJO to be invited back to VICENZAORO. And I'd like to just start by thanking Marco Carniello and Michela Amanduni from the Italian Exhibition Group for graciously hosting us in Vicenza, and also for participating and helping us to put on this talk now on branding in the jewelry industry, and also following up afterwards a conversation about sustainability and succession in the gem and jewelry industry. So again, good morning. My name is Edward Johnson from Gemfields, and it's my honor to be the moderator for this discussion today. The Jewellery Industry Voices seminar series really focuses on choosing different topics of interest and import to the jewelry industry and inviting industry leaders to have a conversation around those topics. So today, when we're talking about the branding of the jewelry market, I'm very, very pleased to be able to introduce our panelists with us today. If I can start over here on my left, we have Iris van der Veken, a wonderful friend of CIBJO, the World Jewellery Confederation, and the jewelry industry now in her new role as Executive Director of the Watch and Jewellery Initiative 2030. Iris, good morning and welcome back with us.
It's great to be in Vicenza, thank you.
And also here, a first-time panelist with us here in the series, though we have had your father and your brother with us in the past, so it's great to welcome you, is Lita Asscher from the Royal Asscher Diamond Company based in Amsterdam. Welcome, Lita.
Thank you very much, Ed. It's a pleasure.
I am reliably informed that online we also have Esther Oberbeck and also Luca Buccellati. Esther, can I just confirm you're with us today?
I am indeed.
Great. Good morning, Esther. Thank you so much for joining us, and I can see you here on the monitor. Lovely to see you. Good morning.
Such a pleasure to be able to join this conversation. Thank you for inviting me.
And also Luca Buccellati, the CEO of Buccellati Holdings. Luca, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here, and thank you so much for inviting me. And really thanks to everybody. Great job. And a great thanks to my one and only Gaetano Cavalieri that called me and invited me. I was so happy when he called me. So I'm super excited to be part of this conversation with you guys.
Thank you, Luca. I can see Gaetano acknowledging in the audience here, and he sends his greetings. My apologies, Esther, I forgot to introduce you as a Senior Vice President of Strategy Development and Strategy Analytics at the De Beers Group, so my apologies. The branding of the jewelry market is our topic for today. I think we can all see, those of us who study the diamond jewelry market, that nowadays, compared to 20 years ago, for example, the role of jewelry brands has increased year on year to be a much more important area, especially for jewelry retailers. Much research indicates that branding in jewelry indicates for often more than half of jewelry sales to the consumer. So what we wanted to discuss today in this seminar is this phenomenon, and in particular, how jewelry brands are promoting responsible sourcing and sustainability principles to enhance their own identity and also the value of their products. So our starting point for this conversation is the De Beers Diamond Insight Report. It's released every year, and it was released last October. I'd encourage you, if you haven't already seen it, to look for the De Beers Insight Report online. And in last year's report, they highlighted 4 key trends that the jewelry industry needs to get to grips with. And in no order, one was ethical assurances, one was brand offerings, one was phygital experiences, a favorite word of ours here at the World Jewelry Confederation, part physical, part digital, phygital, and also Web 3.0 or the metaverse, as it's been called. So these four key trends are important for retailers to get to grips with to really be able to communicate with the modern jewelry consumer. Now, instead of tackling all four of those, we thought today for this conversation between the four of us, we'd select just two. So the branding of jewelry and the ethical assurances. Can I start, please, Esther, as one of the co-authors of that insight report, can I start by asking you a very simple and straight, direct question? Is jewelry really becoming more branded?
Undoubtedly so, Ed. And before I tell you and this audience today how much, branded diamond jewelry has grown in the last decades and some of the reasons behind that trend, I'd just like to take a moment to wish Happy Chinese New Year to those celebrating today. And so going back now to the research. So every year, the BIA surveys tens of thousands of women in the main diamond jewelry markets, and we have done so for decades. So as a result of that, we can see very clear long-term trends that are emerging. And the trend towards preference for branded diamond jewelry is totally unmistakable over these years. So we ask consumers, by the way, to tell us by their own definition, if what they have acquired is branded. And that's very interesting because in the US, at the start of this millennium, the proportion of acquisitions, branded diamond jewelry was in single digits. 10 years ago, they had jumped to 1 in 4, and today it's 1 in 2. So, but even that doesn't tell the full picture because branded diamond jewelry is notable for being the choice of the younger consumer, even though it's 1 in 2 on average. The reality is the under 34s is over 60%, and forced pieces could be for the very young, over 70%. In China, most acquisitions are also branded. Branding is not a phenomenon of jewelry only, right? In fact, jewelry is coming a bit late to this trend, I think. But this growth in branded diamond jewelry is driven by more brands being available because that's what people are looking for, and exciting, interesting value propositions that are being put forward. And so they, these younger consumers, they identify with brands, they espouse their values, and that's not going to change. It's a big trend that's here to stay.
Yeah, thank you. And we're going to go into those values a little bit later as well. So thank you for highlighting that. If I can come here in the room, being phygital, moving from online to a physical presence here with Lita next to me. Of course, the Royal Asscher brand, Asscher as a brand, it goes back in all of our memories in the jewelry business. So from your perspective as the 6th generation taking over the family business now along with your brother, what do you feel are the USPs of the Royal Asscher brand now, and how do you set yourself apart?
Yeah, it's interesting because as a 6th generation, we actually are still doing the same as we did with the first, which is, as we like to call it, we cut for beauty and actually beyond that. So it's in our DNA to really look at how we can cut diamonds in a way to such a high level of standards that it's absolutely breathtaking. And so we created the first ever patented diamond in the world in 1902, the Asscher cut, and today we actually have 5 patented diamond cuts: the Royal Asscher cut, which is the predecessor, the oval, the round, the cushion, and the pear. And so with all these diamonds, what we do is really cut towards such amazing parameters and add additional facets that a consumer today knows that our passion that has been with us for 6 generations is still there today. It's authentic. I'd like to call us not a brand, but a family, because we truly still do what we've done for all these generations before this. And so Yes, you have to change, but we still are what we were 100 and almost 70 years ago. And that's what we sell, mostly in bridal all over the world.
I like that response. I like that idea about the importance of family and heritage. And how do you find, and do you feel that that's really important, that family connection? Is that an important part of how you bring the consumer on your business journey with you as a brand?
Absolutely. I mean, listen, you know, you never buy a diamond when you're angry. You buy it because you're in love or you have something beautiful to celebrate, right? So it has to do with family. It has to do with emotions, and that's what we do as a family as well. And so for us, the values of our company are also just as important as the product that represents that. It's actually very pleasant to have that synchronicity.
Yeah, nice. Can I turn to another famous family brand name in the jewelry industry, Buccellati, and Luca, if I can turn to you. You are now part of the Richemont Group as Maison Buccellati, yet you strive to make sure your identity is the same as it was when you first established, so since 1919. Why do you feel that your consumers or your customers choose Buccellati?
Thank you, Edward. I feel very close to Lita because it's a matter of family. It's a matter of being part of something, even though we are now on the 4th generation of Buccellati, so not 6th. We're going to go there, I'm sure, one day. But it's like feeling something different. I grew up in this family, and I always be a part of this family, doing jewelry, thinking about designing jewelry as my grandfather did 100 years ago. And actually, the DNA is still the same. So I'm very proud to be part of this family, but not only because, not only business. Sometimes I feel not a little bit not guilty, but when I sell big pieces, they were designed maybe from my grandfather, from Gian Maria, or my grandfather Mario. It's like my baby. I mean, I saw those pieces, the lady wearing it, and I said, "Wow, Luca." Sometimes I remember I was in Singapore. We opened up a store, and a wealthy lady came to the store, and she bought a beautiful necklace with pearls that was designed by Mario Buccellati in 1954. It was still there. And I consider that like not only vintage, but just a baby. And I brought this necklace there in Singapore, and that lady, she went crazy for this necklace, and she bought it, and I was like, almost crying, even though it was super worthy and a big business. So, you know, really, I'm not kidding. I mean, something that you have in your DNA, inside yourself, sometimes it's always a matter of feeling. And as soon as you're capable to, to have customer friends in front of you, and they see you having goosebumps when you selling jewelry, and they feel that inside yourself there's something. That you are in love with your jewelry, you love jewelry, and then they buy. They're happy. It makes sense, and that's why the people choose Buccellati. Not only because we are different, everything is handmade, but because I'm still have the same feeling. Growing up, I see all those jewelry around, was like, I'm still so happy when I have my cousin Andrea designing a piece of jewelry, all the family is still involved. I mean, we are 4 of us. And then from a design, from a sketch, having a piece of jewelry there on the table and talking to customer, explain them, it takes 2 years to make one piece, 2 years. It makes sense, always makes sense. So this is what and that became a part of the Richemont Group, changed everything, but not the way we do jewelry. I mean, 10 years ago, we only have 9 stores. Now we have 42 stores. And it's something different. But the style, the DNA, the family is still involved. Nothing changed.
Yeah.
And beyond with you guys, I was scared at the very beginning when they joined, when they bought the company. Really. But now I'm so happy, super happy.
That's beautiful. Thank you very much. And that's a nice answer. And I like to see that growth from 9 to 42 stores, but yet still retaining that key family emotion that you were talking about so nicely there. Thank you. Let's move to the room now, and if we can, to Iris. Now, you've been working in this field for 20 years, a long time, and a lot has changed and a lot has happened in that time. What do you see, and how do you see that this linkage between the term sustainability and branding, how do you see that's evolved over your time doing this work?
Thank you, Ed, and I'm super happy to be here. When I listen to you and when I listen to Luca, I can only say how happy I am that I'm working in this beautiful industry. I think you have to go back to, defining, of course, sustainability, because now we talk about sustainability, it's almost like a buzzword. But actually, originally, if we think about it, in 1970, it was Friedman who said, well, the purpose of a company is, is to create shareholders' value and profits. And today, we see, for example, someone like the Patagonia founder saying, no, it's about purpose. And I think that's the evolution we see. And it's also wonderful to have Esther here, because I think it's a great report. And one of the things that I also came out of the report is how important purpose is. Yeah. And the real DNA of an organization and the values. And actually, when we see the two examples, like Royal Asscher and Buccellati, is that these are family values that are translated into concrete actions and telling the story. So what I would say, the evolution is that it has gone completely away from philanthropy. So originally, a lot of companies would do some donations and do some checks here and there, not consistent. I think today we see that if companies want to make sense, their business strategy needs to be a sustainable one. And I think that's really important for our industry, because we are really an industry of many family businesses, definitely also in the middle of the supply chain. So how can you bring that translation to the next generation? And I would say two important elements is trust and transparency. And that's based on actions. And I think that's here to stay, so that push will come. And that is, of course, then linked to the image of a company, because if things go well, that's great. But if reputation is hit, it is really bad. And allow me to give an example out of another industry. But if you think about the fashion industry, and I think it's super interesting. Look at, it was 1998 when Nike was all over the world, hit, with big reputational issues, for example, on child labor. 3 years later, they started reporting. Today, if you look at their impacts reporting and targets and commitments, they completely transformed that approach to sustainability. And I think that's only going to accelerate. This is the new normal, and it's here to stay.
Yeah, I agree, and I think many people who've not caught up with that need to really get the message that the world has changed. I especially liked your answer there about the trust and transparency. If we can segue into another sort of topic of conversation that we wanted to talk about, which is, as well as the branding, the ethical assurances. And if I can stay with you, Iris, on this one, because, of course, we all hear a lot nowadays about greenwashing, blue washing, even SDG washing.
Right. Pink washing on gender.
Pink washing on gender.
Yeah.
That's a new one to me. Thank you. Good.
Yeah.
With your experience, what are the key elements for communications around sustainability and responsibility within the jewelry supply chain?
Well, the first thing is, before you communicate, you have to do things. So you have to act. And once you start your journey, because it is a tough journey, sustainability, it's not an easy cookie to crack. We have complex supply chains. So I think the first thing is the seriousness about doing things. Then, and that's there are a few elements. I think, first of all, the CEO commitment on the strategy, and then communicating about it step by step. Being very transparent based on data, reliable data, data that's benchmarked. I think assurance is really important, but timely assurance. I think in the times we are now, and times are evolving so quickly, it is super important to have different momentums where you understand the status of where your operations are. And I think most importantly is that it should be part of a culture. I think the worst thing that can happen in communication is that you are telling the values on your website how wonderful you are. And at the same time, you have actually a cultural a culture in an organization that doesn't reflect what you're saying. So I think the saying and the doing needs to be completely integrated. Yeah. So to just recapitulate, CEO commitment, clear messaging, continuously communicating on what's going well, what's not going well, based on data, and it should be a circle, and you should always become more transparent, step by step.
Thank you. Yeah, living your values is truly important, from the CEO down to everybody on the shop floor if you're retailing jewelry. And Luca, if I can turn to you, you know, Buccellati has inherent sustainability, and you strive to maintain that even now as part of a larger group such as Richemont. You know, we've talked previous to this about your commitment to responsible sourcing as a business, your fourth generation within the industry, your commitment with a network of small artisans and craftsmen that you use. How is this possible for your jewelry brand to maintain this now for over 100 years?
Thank you. It's possible because we have sometimes like the fourth generation of artisans still working for us. So the supply chain, in every single step, we check everything. So everything is completely under control. We follow now the rule of Richemont. They're very strict in order to be super sustainability. So checking every single step. And the fourth generation, the third generation of artisans that are working for us, I mean, we're still a small company, but we're looking at the future. We're doing big step in order to be 100% in line what Iris was telling us, super 100% online. So we're still working every day in order to be to grow, not only as a company, but as, you know, a green company. Mm-hmm. There's something that makes sense every time we made a lot of meeting only for understanding the new rules of the world. So, I mean, makes sense every day. And we always dedicate like a couple of hours every day during our meeting on this, you know, on this team every day. So, I mean, very important for us. And it's going to be very important every day, more and more. Mm. As we grow, we have to put very attention on this.
I love the humility where the CEO of Buccellati says we're still a small company.
Yes, we're still a small company. I feel that. But yeah. I mean, I don't want to grow that much, huh? Okay. It's okay. Now it's okay. Because, I mean, otherwise, doing all those pieces of jewelry, a piece of jewelry takes like 1 year to make one. Mm. So, I mean, I don't want to have like 100 stores, then no jewelry inside. Right? You know, it's difficult. It's very difficult. Handmade jewelry. Thank you.
Esther, if I can turn to you now, as the author of the report. Within the report, which again, I'd like to encourage everybody to look online for the De Beers Insight report released in October of last year. You state in that report, values, and I quote, "Values are becoming the new markers of status in luxury." What do you mean by that?
You know, this industry has a job to do, which is to conquer the hearts and minds of younger generations. You know, otherwise it won't thrive. And these younger people, they lead super connected, super engaged lives. They have instant access to information. They understand the importance of big issues, you know, and finding solutions for things such as, you know, climate crisis, social justice. They care deeply. Mm. In the US, we found, for example, that 80% of under 25s tell us they will join organizations that fight for the causes they care about. They're also much more likely than older generations to boycott things, you know, brands and over issues. They feel part of communities, they engage online. So it's not a surprise that these younger people are overrepresented when it comes to mindful consumption or just buying and acquisition. They also influence older generations as well with their points of view. So they have very high awareness of the social and environmental ramifications of their purchases. They care about authenticity. They care about transparency. These values are going to drive these younger consumers to the brands that can deliver on those, right? So this is extremely important, but even more interesting for the fine jewelry industry and for diamonds is the fact that the more educated and wealthier that young person is, the more likely they are to engage with the ethical aspects of luxury goods, you know, and all as a means to enhance their own personal brand. So this is going to become ever more important. And values are definitely a marker of status right now. And I think several people have mentioned that. And this is, again, just going to grow.
Thank you. Turning to the room again, and let's, you know, the family brand, 6th generation now for you, Royal Asscher. We've talked at length about the importance of responsible sourcing and transparency and traceability. Even this morning we were talking about this. How do you see the importance of these areas for your business going forward to connect with your consumer?
Yeah, it's interesting because it's a bit what Luca was saying as well. But I grew up having a family that was always very aware of the fact that social and ethical responsibility was something that we value very much. So ensuring that the diamonds, where they're sourced from, where they're mined from, where they're cut, that everybody in the pipeline has a good living. So it's something that I literally grew up with, something that is in our DNA. I keep saying that. But it's true. And I think that if you work in an industry as we do, you really want to make sure that the product comes from the right places and that you know where it comes from and you know what circumstances the labor has been and all of these things. So it's, yeah, we almost don't talk about it enough. I think that's great that today it's become a very important value to communicate, because I think our industry has never been very good in telling the world what we actually do. And, you know, it's always easier to have the bad guys get all the press. And if you don't say the good things, then that's a very easy loss. So for me and for my brother as a 6th generation, you know, that's something that's ingrained in what we always have fought for, and we will keep doing that. And my father retired, and now he's president of the World Diamond Council and vice president of the Responsible Jewelry Council. So I'm not sure it ever leaves us.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I was going to ask, you know,
Not for sure.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, you know, it's important that what mechanisms are being used by the industry to demonstrate those, as you said, assurances. And
Yeah.
I mean, I guess your answer is going to be the 2 organizations you've just talked about there.
Yeah, but I do. Yeah, of course, the Kimberley process is very important, and my father is really working with all the people that are involved there on making sure that that evolves as well, and that we look at how the world is today. But I think that's the key to it. It's not the same today as it was 20 years ago. It's not the same challenges. So there's new ways we have to find out how we can make sure that we know where it comes from and that the whole supply chain is clear. And blockchain is an incredible new opportunity for us to really have that traceability. It's not that easy, but we have to take first steps, and we do that as well. And I hope that by 2025, I'm able to say, okay, every diamond that I have is on the blockchain, and here is your NFT, and all of these things is what we are working towards. And it's a process, and that's why it's difficult, because you can communicate that you want to go and do that, but you can't say that everything is like that already. So that's the part where it's sometimes difficult and you're struggling with it, but I think we just have to keep pushing and we'll get there.
And I think Luca alluded to that as well, where he talked about, you know, this area of being more responsible is a journey, and you know, it's not feasible. And we've talked at length in many discussions about traceability within the gem and jewelry supply chain. And you know, there are certainly gaps, and we have to acknowledge about what we can say definitively comes from what places. but you're on a journey with that. And we talked already this morning about your use of Tracer, the De Beers blockchain technology. And how do you use that in your product development and your strategy?
Yeah, it was interesting. I was discussing it with the retailer, and they said, well, we don't really need that because we're already a strong brand and you're a strong brand and the consumer trusts you. And I said, yeah, but it's not enough. We got to keep pushing that. And I think that's the key, that we don't sit and think it's fine because we're already doing a lot. You just got to keep making more steps. And whether you really promote that is a different thing, because I think a lot of consumers also expect it from great brands, right? They expect you to do your homework and to make sure that you are in front of doing these things properly within your organization. But we are also a small family business. And I think sometimes it's hard because you don't have time for everything, right? You don't have that many people around you that can truly get you where sometimes the large companies have the opportunity to do so. But I think that there's a lot of tools out there that can help you to understand what your first steps can be and how you can get there. The RGC has done a really great job at that as well. So I think it's okay to take first steps as long as we jointly keep moving forward to the 100% that we really would like to. Yeah.
And maybe we can also highlight the Watch and Jewellery Initiative 2030 that you're part of with Richemont and Kering as also providing more assurance and opportunities for people to be demonstrating the work that they're doing in this area.
Yeah, and I think I think we have to look at it as an ecosystem. I mean, and when I hear you, Luca, it's true. I mean, it's a journey, and I think every day you have the opportunity to look at improvements in your supply chain, but supply chains are connected. And I think the heart of the matter is how can we bring the sustainability agenda really embedded in the full supply chain, not just tier one, because I think most of the companies, I'm very confident, they know exactly who their direct operations are. They know tier two, but when you really dive deep into jewelry and you go to tier three, tier four, tier five, it becomes much more complicated. And I think that's where we have a huge responsibility to strengthen that trust and really create that ecosystem that consumer can have confidence. Because the issue is when we get hit, and sometimes we get hit by, a reputational issue, it hits the whole industry.
Yes.
And which is sad, because I agree with you that a lot of good has been done. From the mining houses pushing proprietary systems, when we had, at that time it was BHP, it was Rio, it was De Beers, pushing that, and you have the foundation of the RJC, you have all the work that CIBJO is doing, so it's an ecosystem. But I do believe it's not enough, Ed, and that we need more bold leadership and that we have to move beyond. Because if we look at that millennial and that Gen Z and then the alpha generation that's now will come, is that they want to understand what real development that you're having on the ground, on the livelihoods of those communities. And if we want to tell those stories right, we need to do it with credible information. And I think that's where we are now at this tipping point. But I think it's good. I'm very happy that we have the consumer, and we should also not forget the regulations. Yeah.
We've got 20 minutes or so left. I'd like to touch on a final topic, which is a little bit of crystal ball gazing, if we can, looking into the future and where we can help retailers around the world with my knowledgeable and experienced panel, where we can help them to find ways to navigate this challenging future out there for jewelry retail. And, when we're looking to the future and we're trying to define that new jewelry world, Luca, if I can turn to you and ask, education is truly important, and we've talked about that already here in the room. And you have founded the Buccellati Renaissance Academy. Tell us more a little bit about that project, please.
Thank you. There was a project that was absolutely mandatory for us in order to looking at the future with different eyes. Because in terms of having people working for us, goldsmith, engraver, all of them, the way we do jewelry is different from the other. We are totally different. And I signed with my blood, with Richemont Group, we will never change the way we do jewelry from the next 200 years. So in order to have the same jewelry as my grandfather, the same, even though now we are different in terms of, tools and stuff, but we can do it now a little bit faster than 100 years ago. But we're still making the same. So we would start talking, and now we sign with the school in Milano, Scuola Oraf Ambrosiana, and we're going to support that school, and we are going to pick every year like 10, 20 of those young guys and join Buccellati Company for a training. We pay them, we stay with them, we teach them how to do it, how to work, how to engrave, how to set a Buccellati stone. Even the setting is different at Buccellati. So we try to grow up those guys, but in a new era, different from the past. So it's amazing the way those they are 18, 19, 20, like my daughter. So it's like talking to my daughter, say, okay, guys, let's stay together. Let's see what the old school have been done, and now you put yourself. But always, we always trace everything, what they're doing. We teach them, we stay with them. It's very important. Let's say by the end of the year, we start 6 months ago, they're starting like 35, and they ended up with 3, okay? It's so difficult. It's so difficult. But it makes sense, because this is going to be the future. The future is in there, not in mine. I'm 56. One day, bye-bye, okay? So, I know. My daughter, my son, they're still a little bit young, but maybe one day they're going to join the company. But I need to have people that know exactly what to do.
Yeah.
And, be focused on it. So I'm very proud of this project. I'm super proud of it. Super.
Well, we look forward.
I know my father's going to say, "Bravo, Luca."
Yeah, bravo, Luca. Well, we look forward to hearing more about the academy as it develops, and thank you for that. Esther, a question that those of us who work in corporate responsibility often get asked is there real value in this move to more sustainability or corporate responsibility within the gem and jewelry supply chain? And what I mean by that, are the consumers really willing to pay more for brands with strong assurance and credibility in sustainability and responsibility? Or, perhaps are they just saying it because they're too embarrassed to say otherwise? What do you feel? Is there value in the work that panel members and others are doing in this area?
Yeah, I think Iris mentioned, how, it's hard work, and how work comes also with costs. So it's a question we get asked all the time, is there enough to cover all these costs? Is this just cost of doing business, or is there really extra value for those companies and brands that are sustainable? And we have very clear evidence of the opportunity for brand preference and premiumization in the sustainability space. I mean, we all know that consumers already pay premiums for ethical and sustainable products, including in the food category, in the apparel world, and increasingly for jewelry. Last year, in 2021, beg your pardon, we published this research on this, showing that ethical and environmental factors now rank on par with price and design for people choosing or purchasing natural diamonds. In fact, the more symbolic and emotive the occasion, the more important the environmental and societal values are for choosing a natural diamond. And so we have here 2 sources of extra value. This is very important. So people are more likely to buy, and they are also likely to pay a premium. And I have lots and lots of numbers, but I'll just highlight one where overall, and this is global, 40% of women told us, and 50% of young women, so 40% of women and 50% of young women told us that if they knew more about the positive impact of diamonds on local mining communities, on initiatives that empower women and girls in local communities, it would make them more likely to acquire diamonds and diamond jewelry. So this is about what I think Lita was saying before, how difficult it is to tell these stories sometimes. What difference does it make? It makes an enormous difference. Half of the young women saying they would be more likely to buy if they had heard of these good stories. 1 in 2 women already say that they are willing to pay a premium for natural diamonds with sustainability credentials versus an average, an identical one without those. They come without us. And the average premiums are 15%, 15% compared to the equivalent natural diamond without those credentials. The younger generations are more likely to pay a higher level of premium than older generations. I mean, the opportunity is unmistakable, for brands and retailers to capture preference by communicating their values. And the final point here, I think it's been raised by all of you, and I would like to emphasize this. There has been, in all our research, we have found a sort of a gap, a deficit between the aspiration of these younger people and what they actually see in practice. And I had a curiosity and went around looking for websites, of brands all over the world, India, China, US, all the major markets. And have found that, indeed, there is very little that is very clear about it. There is somewhere in some small print somewhere, but there aren't these stories. The stories are missing. And they ask us, they say to us, I am very happy with quality, with service, with designs, with how the stores are. I'm happy with that, but I'm missing, I would like to see more about the positive environmental impact of the industry, the impact on communities, all the positive things. And for those companies that are, sourcing from De Beers, we already have our Building Forever goals and initiatives, that is all about great positive stories, aiming, to benefit societies much beyond, just diamonds alone. Tracer is obviously, as already mentioned, a source of assurance as well. So, there's quite a bit around to help brands, but, coming off this seminar, go to your website, show it to your Gen Z young adults in your family, and let them tell you, what are they missing? What would they like to see more, and act on it, because it is essential, to capture their hearts and minds. As I said, that is our only, as an industry, our only task.
Yeah, thank you, Esther. Iris, as we're coming towards the close here, just still thinking about the future. So, for you, we've talked about your history in this industry, but, the future is challenging. We have a more regulatory environment that we have to work in the industry, and it is fast evolving. What do you see, and how do you see that the future looks like for the jewelry business within this compliance and regulatory framework that's sometimes out of control of some smaller jewelry retailers around the world?
I'm very optimistic. And why? Is because I see different drivers every day. First of all, I see an enormous push from the brands, from many of the brands, and I think that's why I'm also very proud to be the initiative that was established by Cartier and Kering, to have more bold leadership, to step up, but also to bring the whole industry along. I also believe there's a huge opportunity as an industry to have a more united front, because I think the stronger we are united, the more consistent we will be also giving messages out there. And I think that's very important, because we shouldn't forget there's a younger consumer that has choices to make, and they will go or for jewelry or they might have other options. So I think that being able to tell that story rightly, and as Esther says, I fully agree with you, Esther, that many companies are not telling their story, maybe because they're a bit afraid to tell the story. So I think it'll be good to help companies on the journey of telling the story. But again, I also want to say with caution that we don't go into the other side of the direction that we were talking about, the blue washing, the green washing, the pink washing, because I think that's where we have a double responsibility, because we are working in this industry of beauty and art. And I think the second point I want to say is our industry also has an enormous opportunity to capture the hearts and the minds of the youth. Yeah. And if we want to do that, we need to see that we bring them in, and also bring them in education. And I see BGOP here, I see Gaetano with CIBJO. There's also there, I think, a unique opportunity to collaborate, to attract talent, to stay in our industry, to learn all these artisanal skills, to keep that, because that's at the end of the day, the beauty and the art that we create. And that's important for the next generations and beautiful brands that are sitting here at the table today to bring that to the next level. So yes, I'm optimistic.
And finally, Lita, thinking about the next generation, we talked about your children this morning, and to make sure that you have a brand that you can pass on to the 7th generation of Asschers. What are you doing to evolve your brand for the future?
Yeah, it's interesting because my father taught me that if you're the same today as you are in 5 years, something's going wrong. And at the same time, I feel that my lesson in the time I've been with the company is that you always have to feel your roots to ensure you keep going in that same direction. But I think, let's not forget about what we're selling. We're selling a product of emotion and love, something that is absolutely gorgeous. So what we have to do and ensure is that the whole business itself keeps going in that direction. And for me, for the next generation, I'm lucky they're 4 and 6, so I have a little time left. But it's as a 6th generation, I feel that I have to ensure that the company is hopefully in even better place than when I took over with my brother 2 years ago. I want my children to be proud of what I'm doing today, and it's less about that sounds silly, but it's less about profit. It's more about really being proud of what we represent and what kind of product we offer to the consumer.
Nice, thank you. I do want to leave some time for questions at the end, so please, if you have any, be thinking about that. But can I just, a quick fire series of questions to all 4 panelists, if I can, and maybe in the spirit of being phygital, I'll go offline and online, so physical presence and people who are with us online today. So the question is the same for all of you, if I can. Briefly, I stress briefly, and in conclusion, what, in your opinion, does the jewelry industry need to do more of to connect with the changing needs of the modern consumer? Maybe I'll start, if I can, online with Luca.
Thank you, Edward. From my side, I used to be in the store waiting for customer. Now I'm out looking for customer. So talk more with them, talk more with people, and always listen every day. We can learn something every day. So be a part of them, not feeling like you are there in heaven and the people are down. So stay on the same level, talk to customer, talk to people, exchanging ideas, exchanging everything. But be part of them.
Great.
Be with people every day, every day.
Excellent. Connect with your customer.
Yeah, what I think is very interesting, during COVID, of course, we got the opportunity to do much more of Zoom calls with customers. We would make online appointments, and it gave us the opportunity to learn so much more, like what Luca is saying. And I think it's really exciting that today we have the opportunity through social media and through things like these virtual appointments to really talk to our customers, because normally my customer is the retailer and not the end consumer. So, but to tell our story and to keep doing that. And I think brands need to keep telling their authenticity and their pure passion, because that's what we do.
Excellent. Connect with the customer, tell your story. Esther, other than obviously advising people to read your excellent Diamond Insight report, what should the jewelry industry do more of to help them connect with the modern consumer?
Yes, so 2 things that are super important have already been mentioned, and I also mentioned about go out and test your digital presence with young adults in your circle, and how do they feel when it compares to brands that excite them the most. So learn from them. If you are a supplier, be transparent to your clients about sourcing, good stories about your product, etc. If you are the retailer side, just ask your supplier. There's a lot out there, and the BS can really, really help. But I wanted to put your frames of mind even a bit further into the future. There's a whole online component, and what I call adopt a bit of foresight. Just be alert to the implications of new technologies and evolving social trends and how they drive demand and profits for your business. by just developing some capability of looking ahead. You know, you don't have to adopt it and you don't have to be pioneer, but you've got to know what's about to happen. And the technology space is absolutely exploding, you know, in terms of how people interact with brands and so forth. So having that adoption of a bit of foresight and looking around the corners, it's something I would highly recommend as well.
Thank you. Last but not least, Iris, same question to you.
I think the industry needs to accelerate innovative thinkings and collaborations. So there's a lot of synergies that we can learn from other industries that sometimes are more advanced. I think there's definitely need to, we've done a lot of good, but we need to do a lot more. So accelerated action, definitely on topics like climate and biodiversity and nature. And then, like you say, Esther, and everyone around the table, it's about connecting that information in a credible, reliable way. And sorry, I don't want to be here the person talking again about reporting, but everyone knows it's there, the Green Deal of Europe. It's coming, it's there. We need to be ready as an industry. So let's show that beauty in a measurable way.
Thank you. So we had connecting with the customer, we had tell your story, follow technology and be aware of the opportunities that brings, and accelerate your actions.
And innovative thinking.
And innovative thinking. Thank you very much. I'm very happy, and I'm sure our panelists are very happy to take any questions from the audience. If you have a question, please, I'm wondering if there was a microphone roving around. I'm looking, maybe not. So if you have a question, please can you raise your voice? Please tell us who you are, where you're from, and what your question is. There is a microphone, thank you. Any questions from the audience?
Hello everyone, I'm Jignesh Himani from Fine Jewelry Manufacturing, a jewelry manufacturing company in India. My question to all the panelists is that if a jewelry manufacturer wants to create its own brands or wants to work with a retail brand, what are the two or three important things that they need to do on the sustainability front?
Thank you, sir. So to repeat the question for those online, for a jewelry manufacturer, what are the 2 or 3 main actions that a business can do to connect through to these new sustainability principles that we've been talking about? I think that's to anybody who would feel free to take it.
You are the master at that. Please, Iris.
You're the
Yes,
master
I
in
give it
petitioning,
more.
Luca.
No, guys. I mean, just from my side, it's just information. I mean, you have to be curious. You have to go through everything. I mean, when I was young, I mean, nobody was talking about sustainability or stuff like that. There was nothing. Now everybody's talking about it because we need to know. So I became a different person in order to be always aware of everything. So I go deep inside every single information. I talk to my people. I talk to my team every day. And even the small company, small brand, they need to do the same, even though they're small, even though you're just yourself, you and your wife, you and your daughter, you and your son, just a small company. It's the same. Nothing changed. I mean, this is my opinion. You have to be aware of everything and go through everything. As soon as you know, then you can go and you make money then.
Thank you. Did I hear Esther trying to join in there as well, Esther?
I'm just saying that, you know, the rules apply everywhere. A brand is a brand, right? But from a sustainability point of view, I think the first step is really to know where things come from. And to Iris's point, you know, you have to mix that ambition that you have with things that you have actually done so that you can communicate what you've done and where you're going. Don't forget online. Online today is so powerful. Younger people, you know, about half of people today, they do a lot of research online before they even enter a store. So, you know, positioning your brand and your story online is you know, particularly important. So going deep, like Luca said, is extremely important because you will need to choose, right? Where do you want to be strong first? And those choices will then make sure that you work with your suppliers and then you position yourself online and offline.
Iris, did you have anything to add for the gentleman?
Well, first of all, I think that often I've been in India visiting many manufacturing sites and family businesses. You know, your purpose of your business is already to bring it to the next generation. So that's already a wonderful purpose. And I think it's like all of us say, I think it's really starting to understand your whole operations. And that starts actually within your operations. People sometimes forget is how do you pay your direct employees? You know, what kind of health and safety do you have? What kind of safe space do you have for people to grow? But at the same time, also collaboration, looking at, can I join a framework that can help me, you know, to build a sustainability strategy, and then sharing and learning from others within that network. But I think the baseline is understanding, like Esther say, where do your materials come from? Are there countries of risk? What are the actions taken? It's not going to be 100% perfect, but have a plan of action ready. It's a journey, but it's a beautiful journey.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions from the floor? Yes, up here in the, towards the middle at the back. Thank you. The microphone's coming.
First of all, thank you for the very interesting discussion. My name is Pashmi Sangvi, and I'm from Diambel Group, and we're a natural diamond company. And I'm actually part of that younger generation that's just joined the family business. So my question is, what's the one piece of advice that you'd give to be successful in a family business?
Great question. And for those of you online, Luca and Esther, the question is, what one piece of advice would you give for somebody new entering the business to be successful? I think this is such a good question. Maybe we can very briefly answer it, and I stress briefly, from each of four of us. Industry leaders, what advice would you give? Esther.
Okay, so welcome to this wonderful world of jewelry, as with this incredible pedigree and heritage, and yet, you know, looking into the future. And I think so for me, definitely be awareness of the entire trends, where are things going for your clients, and you know, if you are a retailer or if you are a supplier to the retailer, really that deep understanding. I think that is a first. Absolutely pay attention to all aspects of sustainability. Work very closely with others. You know, there is so much out there to support and help you. Just, you know, endless curiosity and transforming that into choices, you know, that you've got to make strategically for your future of your business. Good luck.
Thank you, Esther. Luca?
Wow. Be patient, wait, and listen. And just an example, myself, I've been spending 5 years in the US. I'm at UCLA. When I came back, I thought I was a genius. And I went to my father and said, okay, Papi, we start work together. It's okay. You can start working with me, and this is going to be your job. I was opening the store at 9 a.m. in the morning and close it at 7 p.m. at night. That's it. Finish. Yeah. Okay? So you never, be patient, be strong, never give up, and always believe in yourself.
Thank you.
Never give up.
Thank you. If I can ask you to be brief, advice. Iris?
Be true to yourself, to your own values. Be courageous, be humble, and learn every day. Wake up every day and be open to learn from others.
Thank you. Lita?
Yeah, Luca and I start talking the same words, but be passionate about what you do. You know, you will find a certain area in the organization that you love most. And I remember the day that I started working with my father, my uncle, and my brother. My brother already started younger than I am. And I said to my dad, I said, oh my God, does this mean that I have to do this the rest of my life? And he said, you know, maybe you should find out if you like it first. And that's a long time ago. I definitely love it. But my brother and I have completely different things that we love. And I think it's very important to figure out what it is that you're passionate about. And I was in New York for a long time. One of the other organizations, the Women's Jewellery Association, has played a really big role in me having an incredible network of women that support you and that can help you with coaching and all kinds of things. So I think that's also one that could be very valuable.
Yeah, thank you.
And welcome and good luck.
Yeah. Networking, absolutely crucial. If you're asking me, I would say join these associations and network and learn from your peers and enjoy the journey.
Can I just, because we have UN Women here present from the Women Empowerment Principles, sign the Women Empowerment Principles for your company. Lead the way. That's it.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. We're about 6 minutes over, but hey, we started about 6 minutes late, and the conversation deserved an hour. So forgive me, we were meant to finish at 11, and we're just a little bit late, but it was a valuable conversation. I truly enjoyed it. So thank you very much, Luca. We wish you a nice rest of your day. Thank you so much for joining. Esther, we really appreciate you joining today, and our thoughts are with you. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.
And in the room here, Lita, it's been a pleasure having the third member of the Asscher family with us on Jewellery Industry Voices. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, Ed.
And finally, Iris, always wonderful to have you with us. Thank you for being.
Thank you for.
And thank you, everybody. And thank you, everybody here in the room for joining us this morning. We are going to another session in a few minutes. We'll have a quick break. And also for those of you online, thank you for being with us this morning. Before we move on, if I can ask Mr. Dr. Gaetano Cavalieri, President of the World Jewellery Confederation, otherwise known as CIBJO. I think Gaetano has a very important announcement. We were talking about education and the importance of educating people for the future. Gaetano, can you please give us your words of wisdom?
Thank you very much. Let me first thank all of you, the wonderful speaker. Esther, thank you very much. I personally am very sorry that you are not here with us today, but I'm sure that I will come personally to London to visit you on purpose.
Please do. Please do.
Thank you very much. Luca,
Ciao, Gaetano.
we miss your sense of humor today in person because you are a great performer. We know each other since Luca was a young boy. I mean, his father has been a great friend of mine as well, his uncle.
Yeah.
Well, with you, we have a long relation with the family, and as well with Iris since many decades. Thank you very much. I truly enjoyed, and I was emotional to listen to all of you. Also because my son is the generation number 8 in my family, so I understand every single word of what you said. But before we go to the next seminar, I would like to express the fact that this industry needs much more warm feelings and need to be advised about not only the technical standards that CIBJO is offering since 1926, and we have to help our members and our members of the industry, not members of the association, apart the members of the association, but everybody, to learn from what we do in order to better face the consumers. For this reason, CIBJO, the World Jewellery Confederation, is always offering tools free of charge, freely downloadable from our website. And we are today presenting and launching what is the Academy, which is an extra tool that we are offering free of charge under the leadership of Mr. Ken Scarratt. If I may invite you on stage, Ken, please. Thank you very much. And we are going to set up a Zoom or, well, any other platform is around in order that Ken himself, and who is one of the very top scientists in the gemological area in this research, he has a very long career from GIA in America, in London, in New York, in Bangkok, where he lives, by the way, all over the world. Is very well known. And Ken will be leading from yesterday on this new activity that CIBJO is offering. So I would like to pass on to Ken the microphone just to listen to you. What is your intention briefly?
Okay, I'll be very brief. Well, first of all, I have to say thank you, Gaetano, for your wonderful support. But I think this presentation today, this discussion today, was enormously interesting, and particularly at the end of it, where you guys were talking about tell your story. And no, it's really important. And it's really important in terms of what CIBJO has been doing for decades. We have not been telling the story. And what we would like to do and are going to do with the Academy is take all of that wonderful information, those wonderful standards that CIBJO has set over many decades now in the form of their blue books and their guides, taking that from the library shelf and having everybody read it and understand it and ask the questions that are need answering. Why? Why are we making these standards? Why are they necessary? What do I have to do? And that will be the job of the Academy, to drive that forward. And again, Gaetano, thank you so much.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you very much to all of you. Oh, you have the microphone.
Thank you, everybody. So, as Esther reminded us, Kong Hei Fat Choi, or Gong Shi Fat Chai, Happy Lunar New Year. We will be back in 10 minutes or so with our wonderful colleague Lisa Königsberg from Initiatives in Art and Culture with a second seminar. So please don't go away. Please, if you need a comfort break, the toilets are outside. Thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you in a few minutes again. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.